Madison always felt like the black sheep in her family. Her parents had high hopes for both of their daughters. Erica was the golden child, straight-A student, married to a wealthy businessman, living the picture-perfect life. Madison, on the other hand, wanted something simple. She loved people, loved the noise of a busy diner, and found peace in serving coffee with a smile. It wasn't glamorous, but it made her happy. Every time she mentioned her job at family dinners, the room went quiet. Her father would sigh and shake his head, muttering that she was wasting her potential. Her mother would change the subject to Erica's new car or her husband's promotion. And Erica, she always made sure to remind Madison how temporary waitressing should be. "You'll get tired of it soon," she'd say with a smug smile. Madison would just nod, swallowing her frustration. She had stopped trying to make them understand. When her father told her to go to business school, she refused. She didn't want to spend years studying something she didn't care about. That was the breaking point. He stopped speaking to her altogether, saying, "If you choose that path, you're on your own." Madison moved out and started renting a small apartment near the diner. It wasn't much, but it was hers. The job was tough, long hours, rude customers, sore feet, and late nights. But for Madison, there was something beautiful in it. She liked seeing the same faces every morning, the regulars who shared their stories and treated her like family. She worked hard, learned every part of the business, from cooking to handling cash to fixing the coffee machine when it broke. The diner owner, an old man named Tom, noticed her dedication. "You've got fire, kid," he'd say. "Don't ever lose it." While her family was out attending parties and taking vacations, Madison was saving every extra dollar she could. She skipped nights out, wore old shoes, and kept her dreams close to her heart. She wanted to build something of her own, a place where people felt at home, where kindness mattered more than status. Still, some nights she cried quietly in her apartment, wondering if her parents were right. Maybe she was wasting her life. But every morning, she'd get up, tie her apron, and remind herself why she started. She wasn't chasing money or approval. She just wanted to create something meaningful. Years passed. Madison didn't hear much from her family anymore. They only called during holidays, mostly to brag about Erica's life. Madison listened politely, smiled through the small talk, and went back to work. Deep down, she knew something they didn't, that her hard work was slowly leading her somewhere incredible. And one day, when they would least expect it, they'd finally see what she had been building all along. When Madison finally had enough savings, she took a deep breath and bought the small, broken cafe where she had once worked as a waitress. The building was old, the paint was peeling, and the roof leaked when it rained. Most people told her it was a bad idea. But Madison saw something in it that no one else did: potential. She didn't see cracked walls, she saw a future. She started working on it the very next day. There was no fancy team, no investors, no family support. It was just Madison, a few tools, and her best friend Daniel, who had worked with her at the diner. Daniel believed in her even when she doubted herself. Together, they fixed the place piece by piece. Madison painted the walls a warm cream color, sanded the old wooden tables, and hung fairy lights she bought from a discount store. They worked from sunrise to midnight, stopping only for coffee and quick meals. Madison learned to do everything: plumbing, cleaning, and cooking. Some nights she slept in the back room because she was too tired to drive home. But even when her hands were blistered and her eyes heavy, she felt alive. For the first time in her life, she was building something that was hers. Daniel helped her design the menu. They kept it simple: pancakes, sandwiches, and fresh coffee. But Madison added her own touch to every recipe, like her grandmother's secret syrup and her homemade bread. She wanted people to taste comfort, not just food. When she finally opened the doors for the first time, only a few people showed up. Business was slow at first, but Madison didn't lose hope. Every customer mattered to her. She smiled, served them like family, and made sure no one left unhappy. Word started to spread about the little cafe with the kind owner and amazing food. People came back, brought their friends, and soon the small cafe was full every morning. Madison could hardly believe it. She had no advertising, no help, just hard work and heart. Locals started calling it the coziest brunch spot in town. When it came time to give the cafe an official name, Madison didn't hesitate. She called it the Morning Lily, after her grandmother, Lily, the only person who had ever believed she would make something of herself. Madison remembered how her grandmother used to say, "You don't need everyone to believe in you, just one person who truly does." Every time Madison unlocked the cafe door in the morning and the sunlight poured in, she whispered a quiet thank you to her grandmother. The cafe wasn't just a business. It was a symbol of everything she had worked for: strength, faith, and second chances. And though her family still didn't know what she had achieved, Madison knew in her heart that she had already won. Erica's life looked perfect from the outside. She had married Ryan, a successful real estate agent who came from a rich family. Together, they lived in a big house with glass walls, a fancy car parked out front, and designer furniture in every room. Erica loved showing off. Her social circle was full of people who cared about status, money, and appearance. She fit right in. At family gatherings, she always arrived late, wearing expensive dresses and jewelry that sparkled under the lights. Her mother would gush over her, calling her our successful girl. Her father would beam with pride, asking Ryan about his business deals. And Madison, the quiet sister who worked at a cafe, was treated like a background character. She would sit there, smiling politely, even when she felt small inside. Erica never missed a chance to remind Madison of her place. "Still serving coffee, Maddie?" she'd say with a little laugh. "You're so patient. I could never do what you do." I'd go crazy taking orders from strangers all day. Her tone was sweet on the surface, but Madison knew exactly what she meant. The comments always stung, but she didn't let it show. She had learned to smile through it, to hold her pride quietly instead of fighting back. Their parents didn't help either. They would nod in approval at everything Erica said, talking about her vacations and luxury purchases as if they were proof of her worth. Madison would listen, sip her drink, and stay calm. Sometimes her mother would turn to her and say, "You should really think about doing something bigger with your life, honey." Madison would just nod and change the subject. Daniel, her best friend, was the only one who understood how hard it was. After one particularly painful dinner, Madison called him in tears. "It's like they'll never see me as anything more than a failure," she said. Daniel's voice was steady. "Let them think what they want, Maddie. You know who you are. You're building something real, and one day they'll see it." His words gave her strength. So, Madison kept her focus on the cafe. Whenever Erica's voice echoed in her mind, she used it as motivation to work harder. She refused to let bitterness grow inside her. Instead, she poured every bit of her energy into perfecting her cafe, improving recipes, training her staff, and creating a space that made people happy. Every time she saw a customer smile or compliment her food, she felt a quiet sense of victory. It wasn't the kind of success her family celebrated, but it was honest. It came from her own hands and heart. And though Erica's laughter sometimes followed her home, Madison wasn't angry. Deep down, she knew life had a strange way of balancing things. Her moment would come, not out of revenge, but as a result of everything she had worked for. She just had to be patient a little longer. Years passed, and Madison's cafe kept growing little by little. What started as a quiet corner spot became the heart of the town. People came not just for the food but for the feeling, the warmth, the kindness, and the care that Madison put into everything. She knew almost every regular by name, asked about their kids, and remembered their favorite orders. It was more than a business, it was a community. One morning, something unexpected happened. A famous food blogger stopped by without any notice. Madison had no idea who he was. She treated him just like any other customer. She served him pancakes, coffee, and her grandmother's syrup with her usual smile. He loved the food so much that he asked to take a few photos. Madison laughed and agreed, not thinking much of it. A week later, her life changed. The blogger's post went viral overnight. He wrote, "The Morning Lily is the most genuine cafe I've ever been to. Homemade food, warm people, and an owner with a heart of gold." Thousands of people shared it. Suddenly, there were lines stretching outside the door every morning. The quiet cafe that once struggled to fill tables was now packed from opening till closing. Madison was overwhelmed but grateful. She hired more staff, trained them with patience, and made sure the same love went into every dish. Customers started traveling from other towns just to experience her cafe. News channels even called for interviews, but she politely declined. She didn't want fame, she just wanted to keep her dream pure. Soon after, investors began reaching out. Some offered huge sums of money to buy a share of her business. Others wanted to franchise it nationwide. Madison listened carefully to each offer, but her heart told her no. She didn't build the Morning Lily for profit alone. She built it with soul, and she wasn't ready to let anyone else control that. She wanted to grow it her own way, at her own pace. With her earnings, Madison quietly opened a second cafe in another part of town. It took months of planning and even more hard work, but it succeeded too. Then came the third location, each one carrying the same charm and warmth as the first. Madison made sure no matter how big it got, her customers still felt like family. Even with all the success, Madison stayed humble. She still helped clean tables, talked to her staff kindly, and never acted above anyone. Her parents and sister had no idea how big her cafe had become. During family calls, she stayed quiet when they bragged about Erica's vacations and her husband's business. Madison smiled, letting them talk. She didn't need to prove anything. Deep down, she knew her journey spoke louder than words ever could. And one day they would find out, in the most unexpected way. It was the first week of December, and the town was glowing with lights and snow. Madison had been busier than ever. The holidays always brought in more customers, and her cafes were filled with warmth, laughter, and the smell of cinnamon and coffee. One cold evening, as she was closing up, her phone rang. It was her mother. They hadn't spoken in months, so Madison was surprised to hear her voice. Her mother sounded cheerful. "Maddie, we're all getting together for Christmas dinner this year," she said. "Your father found this cute cafe downtown that everyone's been talking about. It's supposed to be wonderful. We've made a reservation there. You should come, sweetheart." Madison froze for a moment, her lips curling into a soft smile. "Oh, what's the name of the cafe?" she asked, pretending not to know. Her mother replied, "It's called the Morning Lily. Isn't that a lovely name?" Madison's heart warmed. She could almost laugh at the irony. They had no idea they were talking about her place, the same cafe they once looked down on her for dreaming about. But she didn't say a word. Instead, she just said, "That sounds nice, Mom. I'll be there." That night, Madison sat alone in her office, thinking about how far she had come. Years ago, she used to cry herself to sleep because she felt invisible to her own family. Now, without even knowing it, they had chosen her cafe to celebrate Christmas, a place born from the very dream they once mocked. She didn't plan any big reveal or speech. That wasn't her style. Madison wanted the moment to happen naturally. She wanted them to see it, to feel it, without her saying, "I told you so." Over the next few days, she made sure everything would be perfect for that night. She personally checked the decorations, twinkling lights, red ribbons, soft Christmas music, and fresh wreaths on every table. The cafe looked magical. Her staff had no idea who the special guests were, but Madison told them to treat the reservation like family, which in truth it was. On Christmas Eve, the snow fell gently outside as the city sparkled. Madison wore her apron and worked alongside her team, pretending to be just another employee. When she saw her parents and Erica walk in, she felt a rush of emotions. They looked around in awe, admiring the cozy atmosphere and the elegant setup. Her mother smiled, whispering, "This place feels so warm, doesn't it?" Madison quietly nodded from behind the counter, her heart pounding. They had no clue that the cafe they had chosen, the one everyone praised, was built by the very daughter they once looked down upon. Madison kept her secret for a few more minutes, letting the moment sink in. She knew that soon they'd find out the truth, and their expressions would be something she'd never forget. When Madison's family walked into the Morning Lily, they were immediately taken by surprise. The cafe looked beautiful. Soft golden lights hung from the ceiling, candles flickered on every table, and the air smelled like freshly baked pastries and hot chocolate. A quiet Christmas song played in the background, and the whole place felt calm and warm. Madison watched them from behind the counter for a moment, her heart beating fast but steady. Her parents looked around, clearly impressed. Her mother whispered, "This place feels so lovely," while her father nodded, scanning every corner with curiosity. Erica, as always, was dressed to impress. She took off her fur coat, pulled out her phone, and began taking pictures. "Wow," she said loudly, "this place is so classy. You'd never think a waitress could run something like this." Madison almost smiled at the irony. If only Erica knew. She kept herself hidden for a few more seconds, watching as her family admired everything: the decor, the food displays, the friendly staff. The waiters moved gracefully, offering water and menus with genuine smiles. Madison had trained them herself to make every guest feel special. Seeing her team work so perfectly filled her with quiet pride. Just then, the manager, a kind man named Leo, approached the table with a polite smile. "Welcome, everyone," he said warmly. "The owner will be right with you." Erica raised an eyebrow. "The owner? Oh, how fancy," she said, laughing softly. Her mother straightened her dress, thinking they might be meeting some important person. None of them had the slightest idea. From the back of the cafe, Madison took a deep breath. Her hands were trembling, not from fear but from emotion. This was the moment she had unknowingly been waiting for. She stepped out slowly, her apron tied neatly, her hair pulled back, and a small smile lighting up her face. When her family saw her walking toward them, their expressions froze. For a few seconds, no one said a word. Erica's phone dropped slightly in her hand. Her father blinked twice, unsure if he was seeing things right. Her mother gasped softly, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Madison," her father finally said. Madison nodded with calm confidence. "Welcome to the morning, Lily," she said kindly. "I'm so glad you could make it." Her mother's hand went to her mouth. "You own this place?" she whispered. Madison smiled, her voice steady and proud. "Yes, every part of it." There was silence again, but this time it was filled with something deeper, realization. Her family looked around once more, seeing the cafe in a completely different light. Every detail, every piece of beauty they had admired a moment ago, now carried her name. For the first time, Madison didn't feel small in their presence. She wasn't the waitress they used to mock. She was the woman who built something extraordinary with her own two hands, and it showed in every shining corner of that room. The moment Madison spoke, the whole table fell silent. It felt like time had stopped. Her father's fork slipped from his hand and clattered softly against the plate. He blinked twice, trying to process what he had just heard. Her mother stared at Madison as if she were seeing her for the first time. And Erica, usually so full of words and confidence, looked pale and speechless. "You own this place?" Erica finally whispered, her voice shaking. Madison nodded calmly. "Every table, every cup, every smile you see here, I built it from nothing," she said quietly but firmly. The words hung in the air, heavier than anyone expected. Her mother's eyes glistened with emotion. Her father opened his mouth as if to speak, but no sound came out. He looked around again, at the polished wooden tables, the lights, the happy customers, the waiters moving with ease, and realized every piece of it carried his daughter's effort. Erica looked down at her hands, fidgeting with her phone. She didn't know what to say. The same sister she had mocked for serving coffee was now the owner of the most popular cafe in town. All her luxury and fancy talk suddenly felt small compared to Madison's quiet strength. Madison didn't gloat or act superior. She just stood there, her hands folded in front of her apron, her voice gentle. "I know you didn't believe in me," she said softly. "But that's okay. I had to believe in myself when no one else did." Her mother's lips trembled as she reached out, touching Madison's hand. We had no idea, sweetheart," she said, her voice breaking. "I know," Madison replied. "And I never tried to prove you wrong. I just wanted to build something I could be proud of." For the first time in years, her father's eyes softened. He took a deep breath, his voice low and sincere. "You did more than that, Maddie. You built something extraordinary." Hearing those words felt strange to Madison, almost unreal. She had imagined this moment before, but in her dreams, it always came with anger or tears. Now that it was real, she didn't feel revenge or pride. She felt peace. The waiter came by with steaming cups of coffee, breaking the silence. Madison served them herself, smiling warmly. Her family sat quietly, still in awe. As they sipped the coffee, her mother whispered, "This is the best I've ever tasted." Madison smiled again. "It's my grandmother's recipe," she said softly. "The same one she used to make for me." Her father nodded slowly, finally smiling. "She'd be proud of you." Madison's heart swelled with emotion. She didn't need their apology. This moment, the look in their eyes, the quiet respect, was enough. They finally saw her not as the girl who failed their expectations, but as the woman who made her own path and turned it into something beautiful. Madison carried the dinner to their table herself, steady and calm. She didn't need anyone else to do it for her. Each plate was arranged with care, roasted chicken, buttery mashed potatoes, and warm bread straight from the oven. Her hands didn't shake, her smile didn't fade. She had served hundreds of people in her life, but this time was different. These were the people who once doubted her the most, and now they were sitting in her cafe, tasting the result of every hard day she had lived through. Her family watched in silence as she set down the plates. The smell of fresh food filled the air, but no one reached for their fork right away. They were still processing everything. Madison could feel their eyes following her every move, but she stayed composed. She spoke kindly, asking if they needed anything else, just like she did with any other guests. Her father looked at her for a long moment. The proud, stubborn man who once told her she was throwing her life away now seemed smaller, almost fragile. His voice came out low and honest. "I was wrong, Maddie," he said. "You've done something extraordinary." For a second, Madison felt her throat tighten. All the years of silence, all the painful words, all the times she had wished for his approval, it all rushed back. But instead of breaking down, she smiled softly. "It's okay, Dad," she said gently. "I had to believe in myself when no one else did." Her father nodded slowly, unable to say more. Her mother reached out and touched her arm, her eyes full of tears. "We're proud of you," she whispered. Madison just gave a small smile, not needing grand apologies. She had already forgiven them long ago. Erica sat quietly, pushing her food around her plate before finally speaking. "You really built all of this by yourself?" she asked. Madison nodded. "Yes, every bit of it. Daniel helped me, but the rest, I learned as I went." Erica sighed, her tone softer than Madison had ever heard before. "I didn't realize how strong you were." Madison chuckled lightly. "I didn't either, until I had to be." They all began eating then, slowly at first, and Madison watched as their faces relaxed. Her father complimented the food, her mother said it felt like home, and even Erica smiled a few times. The tension that had once surrounded their family dinners was gone. For the first time there was peace, no judgment, no comparison, no cold silence. As the night went on, Madison moved between tables, helping her staff and checking on customers, but she kept glancing back at her family. They looked proud, genuinely proud. And in that moment, Madison realized she didn't need revenge or recognition. She just needed to know that she had stayed true to herself. Her father caught her eye again before they left and said softly, "You've made something beautiful, Maddie." She smiled back, her heart finally light. As the evening continued, the mood at the table began to change. The awkward silence that had filled the room earlier slowly melted into something softer, understanding. Madison's family started to relax, talking more freely, and for the first time, they looked at her differently. Her father no longer saw her as the daughter who ignored his advice. Her mother's proud smile stayed on her face the whole time. And Erica, who had always compared herself to others, sat quietly watching her sister move around the cafe with grace and confidence. Madison wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just being herself, serving customers, checking on the kitchen, laughing with her staff. Every move she made showed the kind of strength and peace that only came from hard work and belief. Her family saw it, and it changed the way they understood success. They realized it wasn't about big houses, expensive cars, or high positions. It was about building something from your heart and standing tall, even when no one believed in you. Erica's eyes followed Madison as she spoke kindly to an elderly couple near the window. Something inside her shifted. All her years of bragging, chasing appearances, and trying to look perfect suddenly felt empty. When Madison returned to their table, Erica took a deep breath, her eyes wet with tears. "Maddie," she said softly, "I owe you an apology." Madison looked surprised but didn't interrupt. Erica continued, her voice trembling. "I used to laugh at you because I didn't understand. I thought success meant being rich, being admired. But now I see you standing here, and I realize I was wrong. You have something I never had, courage. I was jealous of that." For a moment, Madison just looked at her sister, speechless. She had imagined many outcomes, but not this one. She reached out and squeezed Erica's hand gently. "It's okay," she said. "We all learn in our own way." Tears rolled down Erica's cheeks as she nodded. Their mother wiped her eyes quietly, while their father cleared his throat, pretending not to be emotional. Madison smiled at them all, feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Peace, love, and belonging. The cafe buzzed softly around them. Laughter, clinking glasses, and Christmas music filled the air. Madison looked around at the people enjoying their meals, at her staff working happily, and at her family finally seeing her for who she truly was. For so long, she had been labeled just a waitress. But tonight, that label was gone. They saw her now, not as someone who failed to live up to expectations, but as the woman who built her own life with heart and determination. She didn't just survive their doubt, she turned it into her greatest strength. As the night drew to an end, Madison finally felt seen, truly seen. Not for what she had, but for who she had become. When the evening came to an end, Madison walked her family to the door. The cold winter air brushed against their faces as soft snow began to fall. Her mother turned to her, eyes filled with tears, and pulled her into a long, tight hug. "We're proud of you," she whispered. Those words hit Madison harder than she expected. For years, she had longed to hear them, not because she needed validation, but because they meant her family finally understood her. Her father placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You've grown into someone remarkable, Madison," he said quietly. Even Erica, who had always been too proud to show emotion, hugged her tightly and whispered, "You inspire me." Madison smiled, her heart full. She watched as they got into their car, waving goodbye with a warmth she hadn't felt in years. The cafe lights reflected softly on the snow as they drove away, disappearing into the night. When everyone was gone, Madison turned the sign on the door to closed and walked back inside. The cafe was quiet now, only the hum of the heater and the faint scent of coffee and cinnamon left behind. She slowly walked through each corner. The table she had polished herself, the counter she had built with Daniel, the walls she had painted late at night when she could barely keep her eyes open. Every piece of the cafe held a memory, a story of struggle, patience, and hope. She leaned against the counter and let out a deep breath. For a moment, she just stood there, looking around with teary eyes and a soft smile. It wasn't about proving anyone wrong anymore. It was about realizing that she had done it. She had turned pain into purpose, rejection into creation. Madison remembered the girl she used to be, the one who cried quietly after family dinners, pretending it didn't hurt when they mocked her dreams. That girl had grown into a woman who didn't need approval, because she had built her own definition of success. She turned off the lights one by one, the cafe growing dim except for the soft glow of the sign outside that read The Morning Lily. The name reminded her of her grandmother, the one person who had believed in her from the start. Madison smiled up at the sign, feeling as if her grandmother was watching over her, proud and at peace. Standing in the doorway, she looked out at the snowy street, her breath forming little clouds in the air. The world outside was quiet and calm, just like her heart. As she locked the door and began to walk away, one thought echoed in her mind. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't about shouting or proving others wrong. It's about living so beautifully that the people who once doubted you have no choice but to admire what you've become. Madison wiped away her tears, smiling through them. Her journey hadn't been easy, but it was worth every step. Dreams built with hard work and heart don't just shine. They glow quietly but powerfully, lighting up everything around them.